what is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Battlefield Project podcast. I am joined by one of my dear friends, Nell Tice, who I will introduce in just a minute. Real quick, this is the podcast for people who understand that life is a battle and only the strong will thrive. So we are not just about surviving here. We are all about thriving. So the goal of this podcast and my purpose for starting this podcast is to inspire everybody out there by giving them an understanding that the successful, happy people in life also experience battles on a daily, weekly basis. There's no red carpet. There's no magic wand that we get to wave that puts us in a position that we're in. We choose on a daily basis to overcome the battles that are thrown in our faces by life, and it happens to all of us, and make the best of it. And that's why we wake up happy. We wake up content. We also wake up knowing we're going to hit more battles, but we're willing to put in that work. So my goal when I invite these guests on is to get people from all different walks of life, super successful financially, super successful in business, super successful in just happiness and relationships, pretty much the full spectrum, but show you that even they have to overcome obstacles on a daily basis. So armed with that knowledge, I hope the listeners here can walk away and go out in their lives and understand that it's just up to them. They own their destiny, and it's up to you completely to do what you want with the obstacles and battles that are thrown in our face. I have no idea what possible battles Nell could be fighting on a daily basis because life just seems so perfect for her, right, everybody? But we're going to find that out super soon. So before we jump in and let her speak, let me tell you that Nell is an entrepreneur, coach, best-selling author, speaker, podcast host, YouTuber. God, it's so much. On a mission to help people see the real beauty in this world and impact the lives of others by guiding them toward finding their own happiness, which I think is an absolutely brilliant reason to be alive and to be breathing. She is passionate about using your negative experiences to get you to a better place rather than allowing them to degrade your quality of life. Now, be honest with me, Nell. Did you write that bio specifically for this podcast? Because that last sentence pretty much just described the entire reason why I started this podcast.
So I will be totally honest. Yes, I did, but I write a bio for every single podcast because I'm not pre-planned enough to write one out and just save it on my computer and copy paste.
Oh, you got to do it. It's so easy.
I know. I should.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you for being here. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. I've a strong feeling that whatever you're about to share is going to impact our audience in a really positive way. So the floor is yours. Let us know some of the battles, challenges that you faced and how you overcame them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I want to say thank you for having me. Just the opportunity to be able to talk about these things and hopefully they resonate with someone. Just one person is all that matters. So I'll just tell you a little bit about my journey. I at the age of 6, I was diagnosed with scoliosis. And if you can imagine, as a little girl in a classroom setting that where you're told to kind of bend over and lift your shirt up because that's how they tested for it back in those days. I mean, this was like late 80s, early 90s. And then sending you off to a doctor to kind of confirm everything. That was a pretty traumatic experience. Being fitted for a brace, I wore a brace from the age of 6 through 14. And the only times I was allowed out of that brace was to swim, do gymnastics, or any other type of sport. So that whole time period was a very awkward time period for me, which I'll get to. But I remember the very day that I got my back brace on, and I was sitting on the stairs at home just crying, like, why me? And I mean, I remember it like it was yesterday. And I remember my parents, my dad specifically going, why did this have to happen to her? Why wasn't it me? Why couldn't I have taken the brunt of this situation in life? And, fast forward a few years, obviously kids can be cruel. Especially, my gosh, had social media been around when I was this age, I just don't even, I don't know.
Yeah.
But kids are cruel. And, I constantly heard things like, I don't want to be friends with back brace girl, or, ew, what's that on your back? Or, just the stupid stuff that kids do. Yep. And fortunately or unfortunately, I decided at the age of 8 that I wanted to be a meteorologist on the Weather Channel, which obviously meant that I was going to spend a heavy amount of time in front of people standing there.
Yeah.
And I was told that no one wants a crooked girl on TV, and all kinds of whatever you can think of was thrown at me.
Yeah.
So at this point in my life, I was pretty much in that phase of like, well, I don't have any friends. Who do I be friends with? And I actually ended up making friends with a lot of boys because, quite honestly, the girls were really, really mean.
Yeah.
And I found solace. I felt comfortable. They weren't judging me for my looks. And that's who I really resonated with. So a lot of people just ask me, you know, like, especially with my business partner, Kyle, like, how does that all work, or how you work with men and stuff like that. And I always have felt more comfortable with men because I just feel less judged, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So, you know, I grew up and my best friend being a guy, like I found a place where I fit in. So moving forward, really to college, I would say, I went to school for meteorology. I minored in broadcasting. And while I was in college, I was a good student and I had really good grades. I was on honor roll and everything in school. In college, there was something in me that just said, this is not for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I ran with that. So I left. And, you know, I've spent a summer working at home, at a restaurant, so forth. But right at the end of my last semester at college is when I met Kenny, my husband. Funny story. I actually met him through an ex-boyfriend. It got a
Whatever it
little
takes.
weird. Yeah. Got a little weird for a second. And he was married at the time. It was just a whole story. So that's another podcast. But we maintained connection, I'll say. We didn't see each other all the time, and eventually, like, obviously his divorce was over with, my relationship was over with, and we stayed, you know, in contact. So that was helpful. But I was still really trying to just find my way. So eventually, and nobody was surprised by this, I was raised in Maryland, and my husband Kenny is from here in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. So I moved up to Lebanon, PA. I started working for a company that was played a huge part in the mortgage meltdown of 2008. I won't mention the name of the company, but I was laid off from my job, and using my husband's contacts and resources, he found me a job at a local coffee and tea company here in Lebanon. And for what I thought was going to be just a temporary until I find something else job, turned into 13 years of one of the most difficult periods of my life.
Yeah.
I was working. The first day I was there, I should have seen the signs. I was doing dishes because part of my job was like tasting coffees and teas, and this really should have been a great, fun job. And I was just completely belittled by how I was washing the dishes by my boss. And I was like, wow, okay, well, it's just my first day, you know, whatever, I'm young.
Yeah.
So that it just spiraled into other things. And it turns out that this person was a complete narcissist. So as I tried to, and this is the one thing that I've always tried to do wherever I was, even if I hated what I was doing, I was going to give it my very best and do everything that I could to help myself, but also the company succeed. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting because I was just talking to somebody about this. You know, we had such a high turnover rate, and I never saw the red flags. You know, it's customary to put in your 2 weeks notice to a job when you're planning on leaving. Well, no one that had ever quit at this place had ever put 2 weeks in. Yeah. They always quit overnight by email, or they just didn't show up, or they were in the middle of a shift and they said, I'm going home. Mm-hmm. You know, there were these flags. And I kept thinking, why are these people leaving and taking control of their situation, but I'm staying? Mm-hmm. Why is this happening? And there were so many instances that I could tell you about where I was being held back by upper management of this company. And there was a breaking point. There really was a breaking point. But there were definitely a series of events that happened coming up to that. just in the recording of my podcast that we just did like 5 minutes ago, you mentioned a story about a Tough Mudder. So in 2019, in May, a friend of ours signed us up for this Tough Mudder. And there's all different kinds. Like there's the 5K, there's the classic one, which I think is like 9 miles, give or take the course. Overnighters, 24-hour ones, all that good stuff. So he's like, all right, I'm going to sign you up for a Tough Mudder. And I'm thinking, well, this is my first one. He's probably signing us up for the 5K. Wrong. He signed us up for the classic, which was 9 miles. It was on a course outside of Philadelphia. So it was very like hilly.
Yep, I did that.
Yeah,
one.
Coatesville. Yeah. Yep. So I was like, oh my gosh, like I haven't trained for it. There's no way. Like I can't do this. And he was like, yes, you can. It's going to be fine. So up to this point in the coffee and tea industry, it's so incredibly closed off because you've got people with recipes and people are always trying to steal ideas and things like that. There's never this sense of community. And I thought every industry was this way. Like I spent 13 years in it. I just assumed like this is how it is in business, you know? So get to the Tough Mudder and there's a point where we're running and I get stuck in a puddle of mud. And the experience that I received with people running ahead of me or behind or on par with me, stopping and turning around to pull me out of the mud was just like, what? Why are you doing this for me? And I mean, I knew obviously that Tough Mudders aren't competitive. Like you're not competing against each other. And it's just mind blowing that people actually care about whether or not I finish this race.
Yeah.
So that set me off. That was the first thing. Later in 2019, my husband and I started a travel vlog on YouTube because we enjoy traveling. People are always like, oh, where are you off to next? And so forth. And did that. The end of 2019 was a terrible time to start a travel YouTube channel, right? So we did another trip, I think, vlogged that, uploaded that to YouTube. And then, of course, we just kind of found ways to make content and stick with it because, as we all know, with anything in life, it's all about consistency, right?
Yeah.
So push through. But that really started to get the wheels turning. Like, how can I get myself out of the situation that I'm in? Because ultimately, realizing and acknowledging the fact that I am responsible for this was really starting to become apparent to me.
Yeah.
So that's when my husband and I started our business, Enticing Media. And I started taking photos. I was already vlogging, so I was already teaching myself how to edit videos and things like that. It really just spawned into something where people were like, well, can I have you come do this for me and I'll pay you and blah, blah, blah. So fast forward to 2021, I walked into work one day and I was having a meeting with this boss that was so incredibly on another level. And I had
not in
no
a good
idea.
way.
No, not at all. I walked into work and there was a voice in my head that said, do it. Just do it now. March 3rd of 2021, I said, I am resigning at the end of the year. And her response to me was, thank you for the notice. After 13 years, thank you for the notice. We never spoke about it again because she passed away in August of 2021. But I still remained committed, even though the company was going through this huge transition. I still said to myself, as many times as people try to talk me out of it, no, you got to get out of this. Do it for you. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. Just do it. So December 9th of 2021, I signed a contract with Kyle Slaymaker as a business coach. And on January 1st, 2022, I was right here in this chair going, what the fuck am I doing? I have no idea what I'm doing. I've edited some YouTube videos for people. And oh my gosh.
And here
like
we go.
Almost a year later, it's wild how time has just flown by. But yeah, those are some of the challenges that I've faced on the path to now.
The thing you said that I think people should pay a lot of attention to, in addition to everything, is when you said, like, what was it, 13 years that you were in that
Mhm.
industry, and that you were like red flag, kind of ignored it, red flag, is like the universe will try to speak to you in so many ways. It's up
Yeah.
to us to see those signs and to take them seriously, because the
Mhm.
universe, like, maybe you have an awakening and God like literally like taps you on the shoulder and he's like, hey, Nell, quit the job, it's time to go. Probably is not going to happen, but
Yeah.
universe, God, whoever, will like throw things in your path and be like, this is a hint, like take the hint. And then you're like, and then, but so many people, and like, this isn't a bash at all, but like you included, for 13
Mhm.
years, we're like, nah, like, why is everyone else get to, like, to do what they want? And why is everyone
Right.
else doing it? But like, nah, I'm just going to keep, like, I'm a good worker. Like, I'm loyal to the company because I'm dedicated to this. And I'm giving myself, probably at some point, it was like, I've already given 7 years. I'm going to stick with this. Like, you've already
Mhm.
invested so much. Why give up now? Even though
Yeah.
you're getting all those signs, and it's important for
Yeah.
people to see those signs and act on those signs.
Absolutely. And you have to be open to receiving those signs. And
Yep.
if there's anything that I could tell anyone is just be open. I mean, this is on me because I realized like I was always destined to be a career woman is what I always thought I would be.
Yeah.
When I saw myself as a meteorologist on the Weather Channel, I legitimately saw my life planned out. I was going to live in a high-rise condo in downtown Atlanta, Georgia. I was going
Yeah.
to walk to a restaurant to meet friends for drinks and dinner on a Friday night, never have even a husband, no
Yeah.
kids. Like this is the life that I saw for myself.
Yeah.
I stuck with the no kids thing. And so to me, my career has always been everything.
Yeah.
Even though, and I did always feel this sense that just because I didn't finish college, like I always had to work extra hard to get to where I
Hmm.
wanted to be and be successful and prove to people that you don't have to go to college to be
Yeah.
successful. And, so this was my job was my baby. I took so much pride in everything I did. And I think that's why it also hurt me more when these narcissistic tendencies would come at me.
Yeah.
And it just, yeah, I mean, it destroyed me. It
As
did.
yeah, I mean, not as it should, but like as it should. Like, that's,
Yeah. Yeah.
you go through that, like, it has every right and probably obligation to destroy you so you can build yourself back up then.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's how we make progress, right?
Yeah. So I'm gonna make a joke here, but like, okay, now you work with Kyle. Like, there's got to be battles that you deal with on a daily basis working with Kyle, right?
Oh, yeah. It's just one big battle. No, I'm just kidding.
That's awesome. But yes, I mean, you, and semi soon here, but I want to like give, because you went from career corporate girl to now business owner, entrepreneur, and I've only known you for, I don't know, a year and a half, maybe. Like, it hasn't been
Yeah.
long. So like, I've seen the second version of you that's now reborn and thriving. But I would imagine you don't go from like 15 or whatever years of like structured in this way to making a pretty hard decision in the middle to now going over here and living in this world without having to experience some kind of challenge in that transition. Like, what was the hardest part of, okay, I don't want to work in corporate America anymore, whether it's for a-hole manager or a great manager. I just don't want to be stuck in that box anymore that's kind of defined me for so long. I want to go over here and spread my wings and fly.
Mhm.
What happened like in that? Because no one gets like a free pass. Like, I'm sure you had to battle to prove to the universe that you really wanted it and you deserved it. So was there something
Yeah.
in between there that you had to overcome?
Yeah. I mean, as entrepreneurs, we're definitely still overcoming something every day. And, those days get fewer and farther between as you progress. But the biggest thing for me was guilt
Yeah.
because I was quitting my job to go do something that I loved. And that's something that I feel like everybody should have the right to do.
Yeah.
Do I also understand that not everybody has the means to do it right now, especially? I mean, we'd all love to quit our 9 to 5 jobs and do what we really love to do,
Yeah.
right? I'm lucky enough to have a husband that's still working full time. I don't have additional mouths to feed. I don't have children. So, there's that. But the extreme guilt that I experienced and still do on occasion, but now I have the tools to work through that.
Yeah.
Um, I would say between January and like April of this year, was dark. It was
Yeah.
really dark. I mean, I'd sit here, I'd sit in a corner, I'd go anywhere and just cry and bawl my eyes out. And Kyle took a beating at that point in time because, I saw a coach as somebody that's supposed to help me through everything.
Mm.
Where, as he really instilled in me at first, like, I am responsible for all of the work. And I knew this, I just had to apply it differently.
Yeah.
But that extreme guilt, having, my husband come home being completely exhausted and feeling totally battered after a day at, by the way, the company that I used to work at. So I get it.
Yeah.
It just ate at me. I hated to see that. Like, he was doing this for me, and I didn't want to put somebody in that position. Like, what am I worth? Like, why do I get to do this and he doesn't? And I still have those days. Like I said, they're fewer and farther between, but that absolute guilt is just, there's so many times where I was like, I don't know. I got to find another way to make money. Like, I can't do this. We can't live the lifestyle that we want to live because I'm doing this and he's doing everything to support
Yeah.
us right now. It's an awful feeling.
Yeah. When you first started explaining that, the guilt that I was like, in my head, I'm like, I think it's probably because she doesn't feel like worthy of doing that. Like and where I think, I don't know your parents, your upbringing, or any of that stuff, but I feel like as like humanity as a whole is kind of ingrained with that it's like, an education system is like, do this, do this, do this, and then go do this. And like, and if you don't want to do that, there's something wrong with you and you think you're better than everybody else and you deserve more and blah, blah, blah. Shame on you. You don't. Like, you belong in the cattle chute with the rest of the cattle. Like,
yeah, there's a very specific system that we are supposed to follow in order to be respected in society.
Yep.
And when you break that mold, everything just goes haywire.
I say it comes with a lot of extra weight, baggage, feelings, emotions, all the above. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But I think now you could probably speak to, you said January to April is like dark and you still have those days. Cause I mean, I still have those days sometimes. And it's like, and whether it's, I don't deserve this, or it's, we just had 3 clients cancel in the last 2 weeks, that we don't control the relationship. It's through a partnership, but it's like, I don't deserve like that to happen. Like, is our money disappearing? And like, so it's these constant things, but I feel like once you make the tough decision, you fight the fight, you go through it, and you're stronger because, and whether or not you're like as strong as you ever be, probably not, we'll always get stronger, but you're getting stronger with each fight. You start to internalize less of like, I'm not worthy of this, and more of like, no, I am. Like, this is the choice I made. It's not an easy one. I didn't have to make this. Everyone else technically could make this choice if they're willing to fight the same fight that I'm fighting. And because of that understanding of like, okay, like, I'm putting my own armor on every single day and going out there and battling, I am worthy of this fight and whatever result comes it, because I'm doing the work on a daily basis. But you don't get to that point without doing the work on a daily basis.
Exactly. Yeah. Doing the work is the absolute biggest thing. And I want to like beat it into people's heads. But
I know,
when you start surrounding yourself with people that get it, and when I say get it, I mean truly get it. That same, if I talk to you about guilt and you're like, yeah, I get that. Like, that's what I mean. And the biggest thing is, for me, not surrounding yourself with yes people.
Yeah.
Yes people are there to say they're building you up. They're positive. They just want to have fun. Like, the yes people they're necessary to an extent in your life. But the people that are going to tell you no or give you alternative opinions are going to be the ones that push you more. It's the concept of like asking a friend, hey, does this outfit look good on me before I head out of the house? And they're like, oh yeah, you look great. And you actually don't. Like, you need that friend to tell you look like shit. You should probably go back and put on a different outfit.
Yeah.
Like, those people are the ones that are going to push you forward. And because I'm a huge, huge believer in the people that you surround yourself with to get you through these dark times and the positive times too.
Yeah.
It's huge.
Yeah. I think that's a phenomenal point to end on, because I have a friend who's surrounding, I'm going to say himself or herself, so I don't like give hints as to who his friend is, with people who only build them up and toot their horn And this friend, from my perspective, is sipping their own Kool-Aid too hard and is now like, I'm slowly kind of distancing myself from them because I'm like, I don't, if that's the path you want to take, I'm good with it. Like, to each their own. I'm not upset about it, but like, it's not the kind of person I want to surround myself with because I don't feel comfortable saying certain things to them because I can see that they're choosing to surround themselves with just yes people.
Right.
And I don't want to be the one friend who comes in, says stuff contrary to all the yes people, and then gets attacked for it. I'm like,
yeah, because you look like an asshole.
Yeah, like if you are proving to me through your everyday like decisions, etc., that you're open to feedback, I'll give you my feedback and I'll do it kindly and respectfully, and like we'll have a conversation about it. But if you're proven through action that you don't want feedback, you want praise all the time, I'm not coming at it because I'm like, what's the point? Like, I know it's going to be conflict, and I do everything in my power to avoid conflict unless it's necessary, but that's not necessary. So I think you got to surround yourself with the right people who will call you on your bullshit, who will also congratulate you when you deserve congratulations, because you got to build each other up.
Absolutely.
Just constant high fives, and like, you're never going to know if you could be doing better because you're going to be told all the time you're the best, and we're never the best version of ourselves. We're constantly works in progress.
100%.
Sweet. So where can people connect with you? And I know in your bio, you did not mention that you're the baddest videographer in the world, but if people want to work with you or hire you or just connect with you on social media, what's the best way for people to contact you?
Yeah, absolutely. So on Facebook, I'm Nell Tice, and my business is Enticing Media, Tice, Tice. So you can find me there. On Instagram, I'm at Nell K Tice. Twitter, I have a funky relationship with that right now, so I'll leave those details be. But my website, enticingmedia.com. If you want to schedule anything, work together, I absolutely find me there. But yeah, I mean, my podcast is What the Nell. You can find me there as well. And our YouTube channel is Kenny and Nell. It's all about travel, but those are the style of YouTube videos that I do. So if you're looking for a portfolio, that's a good place to go. But yeah, I'm mostly on Facebook and Instagram. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being my guest here today. It's been an honor.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's been fun. Yeah, an honor sounds too formal. It's been fun. Like, I love the friendship. I love learning from you, be inspired by you. So I definitely appreciate you being on the show and inspiring other people. And if you're watching this episode and you got any value out of it, please share it with a friend, whether it's just this episode or the show in general. The purpose of this is to create a positive ripple effect in the world by inspiring people that we all have challenges. It's just up to us to overcome them. So if Nell's story resonated with you, or you think it might resonate with someone else who's struggling in a job and wants to get out and not sure how to do it, watch this episode a few times or reach out to Nell, connect with her on social media, and just kind of sit back and watch from a distance and be inspired that way. So Nell, thank you very much. It's been an honor, and thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you on the battlefield. Bye, everybody.